before the judge, and the judge would make a recommendation of transferring me to the adult prison system, parole me, or recommit me back into the custody based on my behavior. So I didn't understand what I had done at 14. It's impossible. And it's impossible for a kid to understand what they are doing at 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and even 19. And I know a lot of people say, man, I don't believe that. All the science, all the medical research, all the data proves this to be true, that the human brain does not develop to at or around age 25. And that's just a normal process of development. That don't include trauma. That don't include abuse. That don't include neglect. That don't include growing up in an environment where you have to try to survive. That brain may not fully develop to 35. So here it is, I'm saying, man, I didn't pull the trigger, mama. So I didn't understand the consequences at the time. So it was hard for me to accept the fact that we, not he, but we took somebody's life. So at 14, I'm saying, man, I ain't do that. And I'm saying, I want to do some time because I want to be a man. Yeah, I don't want to be gone this long, mama. But as a kid, you don't get to pick. So my mother looked at me and she told me, as any mother could possibly tell her son, she said, son, what you gonna do? You don't have no choice but to do it. What you gonna do, kill yourself? And I said, no, ma'am. She said, you ain't got no choice. You took somebody's life. And I said, Mama, I did. She said, y'all took somebody's life, son. My mother never let me back away from not being accountable for being responsible for taking somebody's life. When I felt like I was being done wrong, my mother said, well, at least I get to come talk to you. I get to come see you. That woman, she won't ever get to go see her son. So that's what my mother would say to me to bring me back to reality so I wouldn't see myself as a victim. So I get into the juvenile system. I've never been exposed to gangbanging. I didn't grow up in the hood. I don't know what it's like to be in the ghetto. I wasn't raised in the projects. I wanted to be. So when I finally got exposed to the gang culture, it was everything I was looking for. Small frame kid, needing some male guidance, some male acceptance. I didn't play football, I didn't play basketball, I didn't play sports. I just got a lot of heart. So when I got exposed to the gang culture, it was everything I was looking for coming from a single parent home, just growing up with my mom. And I dove in head first, and I excelled at it. So for 4 years I spent in a lockup facility, a maximum security facility, trying to go to prison, gangbang. I was in a home of a group of teenagers, about 400 teenagers that had committed some of the worst crimes in the history of the state of Texas. We're the first group of children in the state of Texas who began committing crimes such as capital murder, and can be sentenced up to 40 years. I grew up in a facility that housed children from ages 12 to 21. And I grew up with kids who had killed their mothers and their fathers. I grew up with kids who killed their brothers and their sisters. I grew up with kids who committed sexual assault on 9-month-old babies. I grew up with a kid who stabbed his next door neighbor 93 times at the age of 12. You can't even do this 93 times without your arm getting tired. You can't even do that 93 times without your arm getting tired, let alone just getting stuck in flesh and blood. What can drive a 12-year-old? What's inside of a 12-year-old that can drive a 12-year-old to stab their best friend 93 times? Not only that, she's begging to stop, and you drop the knife. What would make a 12-year-old pick that knife back up and finish killing his best friend? I asked my friend, who was that 12-year-old who killed his best friend, man, why? He said, I was afraid of my father. Not that I'm afraid of the police. I'm afraid of my father. So he drug her body through the house to the backyard, sat her against the fence, and got firewood and stacked firewood over her dead body. It's a 12-year-old kid by himself. And he go in the house and he clean up all his blood and guts. What can drive a 12-year-old kid to do that? This was a good 12-year-old kid. He was nothing like me and my gang buddies. This 12-year-old kid spent 30 years in prison for that crime he committed at 12 years old. I asked people what can drive a 12-year-old to do that. They say he got to be a monster. I say he spent 30 years in prison. He didn't kill nobody in prison. Because if that's in you, if that kind of monster is in you at 12 years old, then from 12 to 40-something years old, that monster's going to show again. That monster never showed again in those 30 years. But that kid, that 12-year-old kid, was mimicking the actions of his father. Because the same things that he was saying to his victim while he was killing her, the same thing his father used to say to him when he was getting abused. The same way that his father used to straddle him, he straddled his victim as he stood over and stabbed her. Why you lie? That's what his dad used to say when his dad used to beat him. He told me when he was 6 years old, he had his first homicidal thought after his dad had severely beaten him. He said right after he had his first homicidal thought, his dad walked into the bathroom and said, "I'm sorry," with tears in his eyes. He said, man, maybe if my dad would have came before that thought. Maybe if my dad would have came before that thought. I know a kid who couldn't go to Six Flags. He had been watching his brothers and sisters most of his life. He just wanted to go to Six Flags. They said no, so he went in there and just kicked his sister and killed her. He didn't mean to kill his sister. So my presentation is no child is born bad. Children are mimicking what they see. They're repeating what they hear, the conditions. These ain't bad kids. Man, they just mimicking this shit because they make dying and killing look appealing. I know a 15-year-old kid turned into a killer. And when they buried him and he got killed, he had 2 funerals, 2 caskets. They make dying look appealing. They made jail and killing look appealing. So when you hear me say some of the things that I say, with the shock value that I try to use, man, I'm fighting fire with fire. I'm fighting fire with fire. We was dying to go to jail. These kids is dying to die. If I can't see past 18, what I need to listen to you for, Judge? If I can't see past 18, I ain't scared of them. I ain't gonna be long, I ain't gonna be here long anyway. I'm rushing to the end when every day I wake up and I'm in pain. So, here I am in a facility. My mother comes to visit me every other weekend. I took my GED, I passed it the first time. I'm smart enough to take college courses. But in my world, these kind of men aren't great. I want to go home and be respected. I want to go home and I want to be a man. So I set out to get that badge of honor, right? Being a gangster. By the time I was 16 years old in a lockup facility, one of the older guys who initiated me into the game had left me to call shots over the game, so I was shot calling by the time I was 16 in the facility. I could snap my fingers and start a riot. And I was getting locked up every other week, every other day seems like. I spent 9 months in a 23-hour lockdown, behavior modification program. I was on multiple 28, 24-hour lockdown for 30 days. And really psychologically, man, I was working to become institutionalized, not knowing it. There was 4 individuals who worked on my dorm who was able to see past this hard facade, this bullshit hard facade that I was putting on. I was just acting, right? And they was able to see the potential. And based on the things that they saw, they put their jobs on the line to come back to testify before my judge. To say, Your Honor, this kid, I know what he looked like on paper, but we've been working with him for 4 years. He's been on our dorm for 4 years. This kid got potential to be somebody. They say, well, how do you know? Well, look at his negative leadership. If he can get all these kids to do this negatively, if we have more time to work with him, we think he'll be a better influence. There's a kid by the name of Ethan Couch. Some people know about him, some people don't. A white kid. He killed 4 people in a DWI accident in Texas. And he got 10 years probation. And his family was a millionaire family, real rich family. And his lawyer used this defense called the Affluenza defense, that he was too rich to know right from wrong. White judge, white kid, white county, they swear me down that the only reason that judge gave this kid 10 years probation because she was white and he was white. Kid's name is Ethan Couch, the judge's name is Judge Gene Boyd. So when I do public speaking, especially when I'm doing with law enforcement at the university, I say, how many of you guys believe that Ethan Couch should went to prison? Boy, everybody in the room hands shoot up. And I say, I disagree. And boy, you can see the room. And I say, well, in Judge Gene Boyd's defense, she should have sent me to prison. Because if you would have asked everybody back then, how many of y'all believe Charles should went to prison? That whole facility would have raised their hand, and everybody was wrong. Maybe Judge Gene Boyd saw something in that kid that she saw in me that nobody else could see. Maybe she saw something in him exactly in what she saw in me to prove everybody wrong. That's why she gave him a chance and she gave me a chance. Because she should have sent me to prison. I was working hard to go. Man, I was working hard to go. I had my brother, my oldest brother, at 17 years old, received a 99-year prison sentence for a murder he committed. I was 9 years old. We watching television. My brother all of a sudden said, man, when I grow up, I'm gonna kill somebody. Man, I looked at that nigga and ran down. Mama, Kevin said when he grew up, he gonna kill somebody. She said, what? Boy, come here. Boy, she whooped his ass. Rather than whooping him, she should have been trying to examine where that anger comes from. Because when he grew up, he killed somebody. My brother was always angry from the simple fact that our dads wasn't there. He was naturally angry from the simple fact that dad wasn't there. When he grew up, he killed somebody. My brother just made parole after 31 years. From 17 years old from a crime he committed. 25 of those years, my brother had no remorse for the person he killed. I used to tell him, man, God ain't gonna never let you out of prison if you don't at least have remorse for his mama. He felt like his was justified. I said, God ain't gonna never let you out of prison, man. If you ain't got at least for his mama. Because that's what our mama been preaching, is to have remorse for what you done wrong. So, I share that to say this. Man, sometimes God like playing in the dirt, Judge. Sometimes a lot of these kids, they wrong is their way out. So they can begin to start doing right in life. It may be a 20-year sentence. It may be 10 years. But a lot of times they wrong is their only way out. So they can find this new way to live their life. Because a lot of times they don't know they're doing wrong. Their mama and them do it. Their dad's in agreement with it. The neighbors in agreement with it. So that's why this room ain't filled. They don't know they're doing wrong. Our village, and this ain't about black and white. It's about us. Because our culture is the only culture that's destroying us. Rap culture don't destroy white kids. It don't destroy Hispanic kids. We're the only ones living out the lyrics. And we're sitting back as black people in silence. We're muted. And we're not opposing what's destroying us. Only time we get mad if one of them shoot us, and we're only mad for a minute, then we go back to shooting us. So, after working in the community, doing community work, youth advocacy, youth engagement, creating anti-gang cognitive intervention programs, street life cycles, motivational speaking, and after doing all this, I got frustrated. And I came to the internet to be mean. I came to the internet to be just as disrespectful, but I came to be just as impactful as a rapper in his lyrics. With the same tools, the same language, the same words, the same bravadoness, the same look. I'm matching fire with fire. And I'm unapologetic about it. What we see now today is we see more kids dying and more kids killing than we've ever seen throughout the 90s. Yeah. Than we've ever seen throughout the 90s. So I became the change that I wanted to see. So this is what y'all see, the change that I wanted to become. I wanted to be a rapper, but without rapping, and be just as effective, but changing the narrative, right? I can't rap, but I can talk. I can communicate without a beat and create new narrative. I call the police. Our community teachers don't call the police. Well, there's a lot of little girls in our communities that's getting raped, violated, molested because she think that's snitching, so she don't say nothing. There are molesters who whisper in these kids' ears, "You better not snitch on me." And because that word snitch holds such captive in our communities, they hold in the abuse. And then they just show it in their actions. By that time, it's too late. So I'm trying to peel back all the negative layers that's preventing us from becoming better people.
I really don't care too much about grown adults making wrong choices and decisions. I care about children making wrong choices and decisions. So that's what I aim at. I think standing up talking, I'm wasting my time. I think most of us should be talking like this to kids. And we'll get a better future. So with that being said, I'm gonna open up for questions, but I'm all for you.